My fiancé said he was documenting my stress to help me. Then I found the hidden folder labeled evidence. And that's when I realized he wasn't protecting me. He was setting me up. Before we start, if you like full Reddit-style stories with twists, receipts, and real consequences, hit like, drop your verdict in the comments, and subscribe. We're pushing for our first 1,000 subscribers, and it genuinely helps. I'm 27 F. My fiancé, Caleb, is 30 M. We'd been together 3 years, engaged for 6 months, and we were planning a small wedding. Nothing fancy, just enough to feel like a real new chapter. Caleb was the kind of guy who looked perfect on paper. Stable job, nice smile, great with my parents. The type who'd bring flowers just because and talk about our future in a way that made everyone say, he's a keeper. And I believed it, right up until I started noticing the tiny cracks. It started after I got a promotion. Not a huge one, but a real step up. Better pay, more responsibility, more stress at first. I was proud of myself, but I was also tired. And I told Caleb up front, I'm going to be a little overwhelmed while I adjust. He smiled and kissed my forehead. I've got you. At the beginning, he was supportive. He cooked dinner more. He reminded me to drink water. He'd say things like, we're a team. But then, his support started turning into something else. He began using words like unstable and spiraling, but in a fake caring way. If I vented about work, he'd say, okay, breathe. I don't want you getting worked up. If I cried from exhaustion, he'd say, it's okay. This is just your anxiety talking. If I got frustrated because he forgot something important, like paying a bill, he'd say, I'm worried about how intense your reactions are lately. Intense reaction, worried. It always sounded like concern, but it never felt like concern. It felt like he was taking notes. The first time I noticed something really off was one night when I came home late, drained, and Caleb was sitting on the couch with his phone held up at a weird angle. I asked, are you filming? He chuckled like I was being silly. No, I'm on FaceTime with my cousin. I glanced at the screen. It was dark, no FaceTime. He lowered it quickly and said, babe, you're paranoid. Paranoid. That word landed heavy. I let it go because I didn't want to be the crazy fiancé who accuses her fiancé of weird things. I told myself I was tired. I told myself I was reading into it. But the feeling didn't leave. A week later, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard Caleb in the bedroom talking quietly. Not on speaker, not like a normal call, like he was narrating something. I walked closer and heard him say, okay, this is one of her moods. You see how she gets. It's unpredictable. I froze. My stomach flipped. I stepped into the doorway and said, who are you talking to? Caleb jumped like he didn't expect me. He turned around too fast like he was caught. Then he smiled. Oh, work, he said quickly. Just a voice note about a client. I stared at him. A client. Caleb nodded too hard. Yeah, stressful day, you know. He walked past me, kissed my cheek and said, don't worry about it. But I did worry. Because I knew what I heard. Her moods, unpredictable. That wasn't about work. That was about me. That night, I did something I'd never done in our relationship. I checked his phone while he was in the shower. I know it's wrong, but my gut was screaming and I needed to know if I was losing my mind. I didn't even get far. On his home screen, there was an app open in the background, some kind of notes app with a list. It was literally titled, Incidents. My hands went cold. I clicked it. There were dates, short bullet points, raised voice about bills, cried for 20 min after work, accused me of filming paranoia, unstable mood swing, hostile tone, Threatened to leave, manipulative. Threatened to leave. I never threatened to leave. I said once during an argument, I don't feel safe in this conversation. And he turned it into threatened to leave. I scrolled and my chest got tight. This wasn't journaling. This was documentation. I backed out, put the phone back exactly how I found it, and went to the bathroom mirror like I needed to confirm I still existed. When Caleb came out, smiling like nothing happened, I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just annoyed with me. He was building a file on me. And it got worse. A few days later, my best friend Tessa invited us to a small dinner at her place. It was casual, just a few friends. At one point, someone asked about wedding planning and I joked, "Honestly, I'm just trying not to lose my mind." Everyone laughed. Caleb laughed too, then he said a little too casually, "Yeah, she's been having some intense moments lately." I froze. Tessa looked at me like, huh? Caleb continued, smiling like he was being cute. "She's under a lot of stress. Sometimes she spirals a bit." Spirals. There it was again. My face felt hot. I forced a laugh to not make it awkward, but inside I was screaming. On the drive home, I said, "Why would you say that?" Caleb kept his eyes on the road. "Say what?" "That I spiral." He sighed like I was exhausting. "Because you do, and I'm worried." I said, "It felt like you were telling people something about me." Caleb's jaw tightened. "I'm allowed to talk about my life." "My mental health isn't your gossip," I snapped. He glanced at me, calm and cold. "See, this is what I mean. You go from 0 to 100. Then he added softly, like a threat disguised as care, "I've been documenting it because I want us to be okay." My heart started pounding. Documenting what? Caleb shrugged. "Your stress, your outbursts. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you and protect us." Protect us? I stared out the window the rest of the ride, trying to keep my breathing normal, because one thing was clear. If I reacted, it would go in the file. So I stopped reacting. I became calm on purpose. I smiled, I nodded. I said okay and sure, even when my body wanted to explode. And that's when Caleb got bolder. Because he thought he was winning. One night he sat me down at the kitchen table and said, "We should talk about a prenup." I wasn't against the idea in theory. I have my own savings. I have my own career. A prenup can be normal. So I said, "Okay, what kind of prenup?" Caleb slid a folder across the table. A folder. Like Linda with the notary. And the first page wasn't a prenup. It was something titled Cohabitation Agreement. I flipped through it and my stomach dropped. It wasn't about protecting assets. It was about controlling the home. There were clauses about behavior expectations, about mental wellness, about how, if one party exhibits unstable behavior that creates an unsafe environment, the other party may remove them from the residence. Remove them. I looked up slowly. What is this? Caleb kept his voice calm and gentle like he was a therapist. It's just structure, for your peace of mind. For my peace of mind, I repeated. Caleb nodded. I've noticed patterns, and I think having clear boundaries would help you feel safer. I stared at him. You think I need boundaries so you can kick me out if I get upset? Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly. You're doing it again. Doing what? Twisting my intentions. I pushed the folder away. I'm not signing this. Caleb sighed, rubbing his temples like I was the problem. This is why I've been documenting. You refuse help and then you lash out. I felt my skin go cold. Because in that moment, I understood something. Caleb wasn't planning a marriage with me. He was planning an exit strategy where he looked like the victim. The next day, I called Tessa and asked if I could come over. When I told her everything, the incidents list, the folder, the way he kept saying I was unstable, her face went serious. "This sounds like he's setting you up for something," she said. "Like he wants proof you're the crazy one." I swallowed hard. "That's what it feels like." Tessa said, "Okay, then we don't guess, we get proof." And that's when my strategy began. I didn't confront Caleb. I didn't accuse him again. I didn't give him drama. I acted normal. But I started protecting myself quietly. I did 3 things. First, I started writing my own log, dates, times, what he said, what happened calmly, no emotion, just facts. Second, I told my sister, because I needed someone in my family to know the truth in case Caleb tried to spin the narrative later. Third, I bought a small voice recorder, not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted reality. I didn't even have to use it long. Caleb got sloppy within a week. We were in the living room, and I asked him a simple question. "Why do you keep calling me unstable to other people?" Caleb laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Because it works." I froze. "What?" I asked. He leaned back on the couch, casual, like he was explaining a life hack. "You don't get it," he said. "If I say you're stressed and emotional, people believe it, and then when you react, it confirms it." My mouth went dry. "Why are you doing this?" Caleb looked at me like I was slow, "Because I'm not risking my future." That's when he said the line that made my blood run cold. "My uncle lost half his assets because his ex claimed emotional abuse. So yeah, I'm building protection." He shrugged. "And if this engagement doesn't work out, I want to be the one who looks reasonable." I could barely breathe. "So you're building a file to destroy me?" Caleb smiled slightly. "Don't be dramatic." I had it. I had him admitting it. On audio. That night I sent the recording to Tessa and my sister. I backed it up, twice. And then I did what Caleb never expected me to do. I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't beg. I waited. 2 days later, Caleb's parents came over for dinner. They adored him. They thought he was perfect. They always teased me like, "Don't mess this up, he's a catch." I cooked, kept my face normal, and let the evening play out. Then at the end, his mom said, "So how are you two? Wedding stress okay?" Caleb smiled and said sweetly, "We're okay. She's been a little emotional, but we're working on it." His dad chuckled. "Women get like that." Caleb glanced at me like he wanted me to snap. And I didn't. I smiled and said, "Actually, I think we should be honest about what's really happening." Caleb's smile tightened. "Babe." I pulled out my phone and said calmly, "I have a recording of Caleb admitting he's been calling me unstable because it works, and he's been building a file so he looks like the reasonable one if we break up." The room went silent. Caleb's face went white. "What the hell are you doing?" I looked at his parents. He's been keeping a list called incidents and trying to get me to sign a contract that allows him to remove me from our home for unstable behavior. His mom blinked. "Caleb, is that true?" Caleb snapped, "She's twisting it. She's proving my point." I said calmly, "Play the audio." Caleb stood up fast, angry now, mask slipping. "No, that's private." I hit play. And Caleb's voice filled the room. "Because it works. If I say you're stressed and emotional, people believe it. I'm building protection. I want to be the one who looks reasonable." His mom's face changed. His dad stared at the table. Caleb lunged toward my phone like he wanted to snatch it. I stood up and said, loud enough for everyone, "Don't touch me." His mom said sharply, "Caleb, sit down." That was the first time I ever heard her use that tone with him. Caleb was breathing hard, eyes wild. This is insane. She's sabotaging me. I looked at him and said steady, "No, you sabotaged yourself." Then I turned to his parents and said, "I'm leaving. I won't be painted as unstable because your son is paranoid about money." Caleb's dad finally spoke, quiet but firm. "Caleb, what is wrong with you?" Caleb opened his mouth, then closed it, because for once his charm didn't work. I went to the bedroom, grabbed the bag I'd already packed because my gut knew this was coming, and walked out with my keys. Caleb followed me into the hallway, voice low, angry. "You think you won?" he hissed. I looked at him and said, "I think I escaped." Then I left. The next week was chaos. Caleb tried to call, I blocked him. He emailed, "We need to talk, you misunderstood." Then he got mean. "You're going to regret this. You're unstable and everyone knows it. You just proved you're irrational." I forwarded every message to a folder and didn't respond. Then the final move came. Caleb tried to flip the narrative publicly. He posted a vague status about dodging a bullet and mental health issues, and how men deserve protection too. A couple of mutual friends messaged me asking what happened. I sent them the audio. Just the audio. No paragraph, no fight, no drama. And you know what happened. His post disappeared within an hour. Because people can debate opinions. They can't debate his own voice. 2 months later, I got a message from Caleb's cousin, apparently the one he claimed he was documenting for. It said, "I'm sorry, he did the same thing to his ex. We didn't know, you're not crazy." That message didn't make me feel happy. It made me feel sick. Because it meant Caleb wasn't panicking. He was practicing. And I was just his next target. Here's the best part, though. Remember that cohabitation agreement that would allow him to remove me from the home. Turns out the lease was in my name. Caleb moved in with me when he was in between places. He paid half, sure, but legally it was my apartment. So I emailed my landlord, explained that I was ending the cohabitation, and asked about removing an occupant. It was straightforward. Caleb came home one day to find a notice on the table. He had to be out by the end of the month or I'd file officially. He texted me from a burner number. "You're really doing this, after everything?" I replied once. "You documented incidents, consider this one." Then I blocked that number too. Last update, I'm okay now, better than okay. I'm not walking on eggshells. I'm not over-explaining my emotions to avoid being labeled. I sleep, I laugh, I breathe. And the biggest lesson: if someone is documenting you instead of loving you, they're not your partner. They're your opponent. So here's my question for you. Was I wrong for exposing him in front of his parents? Or was that the only language someone like him understands? If you made it to the end, hit like, drop your verdict and subscribe, because we're still pushing for our first 1,000 subscribers, and I post full Reddit-style stories like this every day.